excellent.
Let's start our conversation today with a bold question. Here it is. What if the very thing that you're about to give up on is the thing that needs more time? See, we live in a world that is obsessed with moments. You're obsessed with viral moments, breakthrough moments, that one perfect meeting, or maybe that one big hire that can change everything in the office. And I know that I personally am guilty of this mentality as well. But what if the real transformation doesn't happen in a moment? What if the real transformation happens in a process? Today we're talking about the thing that most people never stay long enough to see. We're talking about the quiet power of the process. See, regardless if you're trying to build a business or shape a culture, maybe raise a family, lead a team, or even chase your dream, nothing meaningful happens without the patience to work the process. So if you feel like quitting, just stay with me. You're not stuck. You're not behind. You're in the part of the story where most people give up. Let's discover how to pursue the process. So welcome to the Mind Your Business podcast, the podcast for whatever business is on your mind. Let's get started.
Well, that's excellent.
Well, thank you for joining me for another episode of the Mind Your Business podcast. It is always better when you're here. And if this brings value to your life, do me a favor. If you're watching on YouTube, like, subscribe, and share this with others. If you're listening by podcast, leave a review, please, wherever it is that you listen, because this helps add as much value to as many people as possible. Let's start with something simple. Let's talk about a baby learning to walk. There's no trophy moment when a child officially learns to walk. Think about it. It's just a series of steps. It's a process, if you will. Maybe they start by pulling up on the couch, and maybe they start to stand on their own, and it's shaky at first, and then they fall. Maybe they laugh, and then they do it all again, and there's another fall, and maybe this time there's some tears. But then days later, there's a step, and then maybe two steps, and before you know it, they are running. The kind of running that makes you realize your house is no longer safe for anything at waist level. If you're a parent, you know what I'm talking about. And it's the same thing with talking. It starts with a noise. You have a little babble, maybe a little sound, and then comes words like mama or dada, short words, just jumbled phrases, and before you know it, you have full-on storytelling about dinosaurs and cookies and all the drama that's happening at preschool. But somehow, as adults, we forget all about this. As adults, we forget that there was a process behind the outcome. We want instant culture change. As adults, we want instant leadership influence. We want instant results. And when it doesn't happen fast, we feel like we are failing. And this is a dangerous mindset. It causes us to pivot before we see progress. It causes us to compare our chapter 2 to someone else's chapter 20 and then assume that we're behind. I am so personally guilty of that one. And even worse, it can convince us that nothing is happening at all when we're not seeing those immediate results that we want to see. But this is the hard thing. This is the hard to see truth. You're not failing. You're just in the process. It's hard to recognize it. It's hard to see it. It's not clear, but you're not failing. You're just in the process. And that's what we're unpacking today. Let me walk you through 4 powerful shifts that will help you pursue the process and go the distance. So let's start with number 1, respect the repetition. Repetition isn't punishment. It's preparation. Repetition is where greatness gets formed. And I, again, am guilty of this one. Oftentimes, I think if I am having to repeat something, if I'm in a cycle, not achieving what it is that I desire, I feel as if I'm being punished. I feel as if I'm doing something wrong. I feel as if I'm not good enough. But reality says, or what the reality is that it's just preparation. Repetition is where greatness gets formed. Now, I hate to say this and admit this publicly to many of you. Please don't exit the podcast. but I'm not a sports fan. But even as a non-sports fan, I know about Kobe Bryant and his 4 a.m. workout mentality. He was known for his obsession with mastering the basics. There's a legendary story, which is one reason I know, and it was about him showing up at a 4 a.m. Olympic team practice. Many of you have heard this before. And when he showed up at 4 a.m. for this practice, he was already sweating from drills. A trainer asked him, "Why are you spending hours on the same footwork? Why are you spending hours on the same foundational tasks?" And this is what he said. He said, "Why do you think that I'm the best? I never get bored with the basics." Most of us just want to move past the foundational stuff because it feels slow, or our pride gets in the way and it feels beneath us. I've already done that. I don't have to do that again. What if someone sees me out there doing the foundational things? But repetition is how excellence gets built. There is power in the repetition. Culture changes when core values are repeated. The culture changes when core values are modeled and, importantly, rewarded. Relationships grow when there's those small, consistent actions that build trust. Leaders improve by practicing the basics, not just chasing that next big idea. And here's the thing. If it feels repetitive to you, if right now you feel that you are in a cycle of things just simply being repetitive, then good. That's the sign that it's working. So don't look for results that come from what you occasionally do. Look for results that come from what you consistently do. And then number 2, this is important, track momentum, not perfection. Track momentum, forward movement, and not just perfection, achieving what it is that you desire to achieve and doing it perfectly all the time. Listen, progress isn't perfection. It's movement in the right direction. Progress isn't perfection. Stop chasing it. It's just simply movement in the right direction. Listen, you may not be where you want to be, but are you further from where you started? Stop just a moment and think about that, because your mind, your heart, your desires, they're already at the finish line, and you're sitting understanding right now, I'm not there. What's wrong? Why have I not achieved this? You may not be where you want to be, but just simply say, are you farther than where you started? And if you answer that question yes, then you're in the race, you're in the process. I was recently speaking with a manager, having a conversation, and the desire of this manager was to shift a very unhealthy culture, just wanting to turn the entire ship around and make it a healthy place to be. And he was trying to grasp what a tangible metric would be, just to say, hey, we've arrived, we have completed this. But it just wasn't grasping in his mind how to have a tangible metric to go, oh, we've arrived, this is it. And so what he was really trying to answer was this: just how will I know when the culture has changed? How will I know that we have achieved our goal of having a healthy place to work? And I just laughed and I said, well, one thing that you can look for is when the office no longer feels like a funeral. And that's kind of a gut punch, because most of us don't want to think about the place we lead feeling like a funeral. But when the office doesn't feel like a funeral and everyone wants to go there and it doesn't feel like death, that's a good indication that the culture has changed. Or I said, when the office has laughter, when you hear coworkers laughing together, actually having a good time, that's an indicator that the culture has shifted. Or when people aren't afraid to share their opinions. So if they're sitting in a staff meeting and someone asks a question, what do you think about this? Do they feel safe to express that opinion? If someone is talking in the hallways, are they worried that someone's going to hear them over their shoulder about what the repercussions would be for their comment? But if people are sharing openly, it means it is a healthy environment where everyone is contributing together. See, I understand that these aren't specifically tangible metrics per se. You're not tracking this on a data sheet, but these are the things that are momentum. They may not be metrics, but they're momentum. These are the qualities that are often taken for granted or they're just undervalued, but they are important to the process. It's no different than the process of, let's say, trying to meet a fitness goal. If you only celebrate the final number on the scale, you'll miss all of the signs of forward motion. So most of us, we get fixated on what the scale says every time we step on it. And when it doesn't meet the number, when we don't see the outcome of our desire, it often leaves us discouraged or deflated. But if that's all you're looking at, you're going to miss all of the signs of forward motion. You're going to miss that your clothes are fitting better. You're going to miss that you have more energy, maybe that you've been sleeping better, or that increased confidence that you're achieving your goal. All of those things are momentum. Let me tell you about a company that you've probably heard of, Slack. Today, it's one of the most widely used communication platforms in the world. Many of you use this in your workplace. But what most people don't realize is that Slack didn't start out as a communications tool. Slack actually started as a gaming company. See, back in 2009, Stuart Butterfield and his team, they were building an online game and they called it Glitch, and they had spent years on it. They had actually raised millions of dollars. They had a big launch, and then it just flopped. It went nowhere. The game, it just never took off, and the company had to shut down. That's where most of us lose it. That's where most of us give up. That's where most of us call ourselves failure and regret the fact that we even tried. But this is what's amazing about this story. See, while they were building that game, when Glitch was the focus, they had created this simple internal chat tool just so that they could talk to one another and they could collaborate together on the project. It was nothing flashy. It was nothing that they were thinking anything about other than just making their process easier. It was just a way to make work easier for everyone involved. But that little tool, that little side project, that's what became Slack. See, the success didn't come from the polished final product. It came from noticing some momentum in something so small, something imperfect, something not even intended for the market or the masses. But they realized, hey, people seem to really like this tool that we're using. This is really making work easier. This is helping our communication. What if, think about that question, what if we focused on that instead of the game? There was no celebration of a perfect outcome. There was just recognition of forward motion. Something was working, and so they followed what was working. They followed the forward momentum. And that's the point. Slack didn't become Slack because they nailed it from the start. They became Slack because they noticed momentum, and they decided that that was enough of a reason to keep going. Listen, don't be the kid in the back seat constantly saying, "Are we there yet?" Just enjoy the ride. Just enjoy where it's taking you. Celebrate the forward motion. And remember, perfection is the enemy of progress, but momentum is the proof that progress is happening. And then number 3, I would encourage you here, make peace with slow. Make peace with slow. We don't like slow. Sometimes when it's slow, it doesn't mean that you're stuck. It's just the speed of sustainability. I think this is so incredibly important. Slow does not mean you're stuck. It's possibly for you just a healthy way to go the speed of sustainability. Fast growth often leads to burnout. Process growth, though, builds roots. It digs deep and creates something that's healthy. A rocket ship, it goes quickly, but it burns out just as quick as it took off. But in the process, it's forming and it's growing and it's becoming healthy, building a root system. Did you know that Chinese bamboo takes 4 years to break the surface of the ground? Think about that. 4 years. You plant it, you water it, you fertilize it, you care for it. And for 4 years, nothing. Silence. No sign of life. No sign of anything productive happening. But once it breaks through that ground, it can grow 90 feet in just a few weeks. See, in all of the time that seemed wasted, in all of that time that was discouraging or even depressing, that was growing deep roots in the ground. It was developing a deep root system. It was building the support that would be needed when the breakthrough came. But when you are discouraged, or when you're depressed, or when you feel like you have failed, we forget. We can get discouraged and lose the fact that we're in the process when we're looking for the final product. But some of you feel like you're buried. Today, as you listen, some of you feel like you're buried, but maybe you're just taking root. We live in a culture that celebrates fast food. We want fast money. We want those fast followers, but fast isn't always faithful, and very rarely is it sustainable. It took Netflix nearly a decade to go from the DVD rental platform to the streaming giant that they are today. They had competition. There were people gunning for them. They had setbacks and near bankruptcy, but they stayed with the process. They made peace with slow, and the rest is history. I can remember being one of the early customers of DVD delivery from Netflix. It was amazing, the fact that you could pick DVDs online and they would mail them to you, and then you could watch them, put them back in a return envelope, and send them for free. But it took a long time to break the process of DVD rentals all the way to streaming. Many of us miss that today because we see the final product, but there was such a process in the middle. So I want to encourage you today, make peace with slow. It's not a sign that you're stuck. It might be proof that you're building something that's real, because slow growth is deep growth. It's the kind of growth that survives the storms. And then number 4, keep sowing. When we began our conversation today, I asked you a question. Do you remember what it was? Here it is. What if the very thing that you're about to give up on is the thing that just needs more time? Hopefully, I've convinced you by now to just simply pursue the process. But what do you do in the middle of it all? What do you do when you're in the middle of process and finished product? Well, the answer is you just keep sowing. Can you imagine working on a single idea, one single focus, not for a few months, not even for a couple of years, but for 15 years? Did you know that's how long it took James Dyson to invent the world's first bagless vacuum cleaner? Now, let me say this. Kudos to James Dyson for staying in the fight for 15 years, especially when we're talking about a bagless vacuum cleaner. I don't know how you become passionate about that, but for 15 years, that's how long he spent trying to invent the world's first bagless vacuum cleaner. He created over 5,100 prototypes that didn't work. And most people, they would have walked away after, 10, maybe 50? But Dyson just kept going. See, he wasn't chasing perfection. He was committed to a process. See, for most of us, it's easy to romanticize success when you're standing on the other side of it. We see a shiny finished product, and then we forget what it took to get there. We see the people on social media, on Instagram, on TikTok, all the places, and we see what they've accomplished, and then we look at ourselves and we go, well, why are we not there? How did they get there so quickly? How did they get there overnight? But we forget there was a process to get to that finished product. Real progress rarely comes with a party. It rarely comes with these big, loud wins. Most of the time, it just shows up quietly in the mundane and in the day-to-day. And this is true whether you're building a business, if you're changing your company culture, if you're launching into a brand new goal, or if you're just simply trying to improve an area of your life. There are days where it would just feel like, nothing's changing. It'll just feel like you're stuck, like you're doing the same thing over and over again with no payoff. But what if that's exactly what progress looks like? Dyson once said this. He said, enjoy failure and learn from it, because you can never learn from success. And that's the mindset of someone who values process over pride. For most of us, our pride is what takes precedence over the process. But when we understand that even failure is not really failure, it's an opportunity to learn and it's an opportunity to grow. So don't just look for the finished product. Don't look for the final outcome when you're not there yet. Just learn from the process, because that is what takes you to where you want to be. So if you're in the middle of the grind, don't confuse the quiet days with wasted effort. Just keep sowing. Sometimes growth is happening when you can't even see it. And just know the process is always working if you keep working the process. And you have to sow in order to reap. So here's your reminder for today. You're not behind. You're in the process. You're not stuck. You're being shaped. And I want to pause and just have you say that with me, because I think someone who's watching or listening, you need to say this for yourself. Say it. I'm not behind. I'm just in the process. I am not stuck. I am currently being shaped. Regardless if it's your business, if it's your health, if it's your faith, if it's your leadership, or even your family, just pursue the process. Show up when it's hard. Keep going when it's slow. Trust the work when you can't see the results, because there may not be one magical moment when it all clicks. But if you stay with it, one day you'll look up and you'll realize you're walking, you're growing, and you're becoming. And it wasn't because of one moment. It was because you pursued the process. Hey, thanks for tuning in to the Mind Your Business podcast. If you found this episode helpful, will you please like this, share this, and subscribe? And wherever you are listening, at whatever platform, please leave a review. And hey, if you are on YouTube, hey, join the conversation. I would love to hear about what process that you're currently in. And until next time, go mind your business, never stop learning, keep your mind on what matters most, and pursue the process.